We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear skies overnight with a low of 63, then sunshine on Friday with a high of 88. Eat Local Minnesota restaurants are perfect for your next outing, whether it's date night, family night, a business lunch, or a get-together with friends. See the full list of Eat Local Minnesota restaurants at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss national and local Native news, and as you all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open from Monday. They're open on Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
But probably not this Monday because it's the colonizers' holiday.
And maybe, yeah, exactly. And maybe not even tomorrow. We'll see. Because we're off tomorrow.
Hey, don't say anything. Just let the people listen and think it's a new show.
All right. Awesome.
Hey. We discuss Native issues and world issues, and we're also wearing orange again, Wendy, and Ogama, I see, and Lewis has an orange heart, so he's doing good there in his he's got his iron pony there, and he's going to a tennis match. So that sounds very colonized, but we support that here. Hey, so why don't we get to Ogama with the news right away? So I quit talking. Welcome, Ogama.
Hi, bonjour, everybody. This is Ogamaganua with Native Roots Radio. As always, I'm going to give some little updates here on what's going on with the water protectors in Minnesota. So today, GNU Collective put out a press release about water protectors. Dozens of water protectors actually flowed into a Line 3 construction site near Park Rapids, while one Native matriarch locked two heavy equipment, and the executive director of the Rainforest Action Network risked arrest by halting construction for looks like they don't list an amount of time, but the action is coming as Enbridge has begun to drilling over 200 rivers, or 20 rivers, excuse me, and 800 wetlands in Anishinaabe Treaty Territory in northern Minnesota. Wow, I think I'm contagious from you, Wendy.
Oh, I can't.
I just got a little video here I wanted to queue up. Unicorn Wright interviewed Tara Hauska, the founder of GNU Collective, about the ongoing, I guess you could call it a blockade of the Camp Nemewag, where GNU Collective resides and runs their operation. It's on private property, and the Hubbard County Sheriffs in Minnesota have blockaded that, I believe, since Monday. So here's an update from Unicorn Wright earlier this week with Tara Hauska.
End of the driveway of our private driveway to our private property, came out and greeted the sheriffs, was handed a piece of paper that does not even have a date on it, but informed me that as of 10 a.m. today, so 4 hours from when they delivered it, that they were going to close the driveway to our private property, stating that because the driveway is on county land, that they have a right to close it, saying that we don't have an easement to the land. A basic understanding of property law is that you can't landlock somebody. There has to be access to that piece of land, and that access has been this county road since this parcel has existed, and it's transferred with each subsequent landholder. Upon further looking into exactly what's been filed at the county recorder and everything like that, it looks like the easement actually belongs to Winona LeDuc right now. I asked Winona if we can use her easement, and she said yes. This to me falls in line with the U.S. government's long-standing relationship of putting Native people into a place and refusing rights to travel. And here we are, we're in a place that we chose and purchased legally, and they're refusing us our free right to travel. It's very obviously harassment by local sheriffs, and those sheriffs are in direct financial relationship with the Enbridge Corporation. You know, they're here at this particular property. Why are they here at this property? I guess on some level I'll say, like, it's pretty clear to me that Minnesota doesn't understand what treaty law is, and it doesn't understand what U.S. law is either, clearly. Even the most basic levels of property law. And the sheriff has made a fool of himself today.
So that was Tara Hauska, founder of GNU Collective, with an update from this past Monday when Hubbard County Sheriffs began blockading in Camp Nemewag near Park Rapids in Minnesota, which is, again, on private property. The Hubbard County Sheriff's Office did release a press release on the 29th of June, claiming that they posted a notice at the entrance of the Nemewag camp whose members are occupying property on Hines Lake. Members of the camp have been driving through Hubbard County tax forfeited land on a trail not open for vehicular traffic to access the camp property, with a history of damage caused to the county trail and the failure of the current owner to secure an easement from Hubbard County. A decision was made to notify the occupants of the camp that vehicular travel was in violation of Hubbard County's land use ordinance, and that the trail would eventually be barricaded. Of the approximately 40 vehicles at the camp, only two chose to leave camp, and members of the camp are allowed to exit the camp in vehicles, but then those vehicles are not allowed to cross the county line to get back into the camp. I'm not really sure under what law a Hubbard County Sheriff thinks they have the right to do that. They're saying the county ordinance only applies to vehicular traffic, and people are allowed to travel on foot to or to access the property off of Big Buck Drive, which is a public roadway, and it is signed Sheriff Corey Ox of Hubbard County Sheriff's Office, and there's no contact information given to like follow up on that press release. Normally when you have a press release, there's contact information. There's nothing there. So I'm just noticing a whole lot more problems with this as more information comes out about this, right, Robert?
Yeah, definitely. Wendy and
There's
Louis,
not even a date on the notice.
yeah,
Mhm.
like if you gave me a piece of paper to clean my room and you had no date or anything, it's ridiculous, though. It
Mhm.
really is ridiculous that Native Americans are being treated the same this way, and it's really awesome that you're covering this and following this because nobody else is, Wendy.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Olgama.
Yes, I do have one more quick update. If you are in the area in Minnesota this weekend, July 2nd through 5th, you can go to the Shell City campgrounds for the Shell River Paddle. And I believe they're going to be having a little parade on July 4th. It is a public campground. It's rough camping. There are bathrooms on site, and there is a small fee. If you are not Indigenous, you will have to pay a fee. Indigenous 1855 treaty card holders do not have to pay a fee, but they're going to be doing several 2 to 3 hour paddles from the Shell City campground down the Shell River. And that's going to be a really nice way to spend your 4th of July weekend if you're not aware. More news on what's happening up in Canada today is what's widely known as Canada Day. And thousands of people have turned out in Canada in protest of the holiday. So in recent weeks, as we all know, over 1,000 unmarked graves have been uncovered on the grounds of residential schools all over Canada. Hundreds of people gathered in Montreal as well as in Quebec. Everybody is donning orange, and they're there to denounce the country's legacy of residential schools. People are there speaking and basically saying that celebrating Canada Day on July 1st without the education of the Indigenous history and how Canada treated the Indigenous people is celebrating oppression. In Minneapolis, the American Indian Movement was hosting a press conference tonight at the St. Paul, Minnesota Minnesota Cathedral. I believe it's supposed to run from 5 to 7. So if we get any live feed on that, we'll definitely share that.
Awesome. Hey, Peony Gigi for the news. Up next.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing the video and the audio on that piece. That was awesome.
Yeah, Tara's been on our show many times, and it's hard to track her down. So it's good to hear good words come from her. And Unicorn Riot does the deal, right?
They're there, boots on the ground.
Absolutely. So there's a group too. If you ever have some extra change to spend some money and send their way, because they're a nonprofit news corporation, and as we all know, the more money you get, the less you can talk about real things. So, hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and up next, Robert Lilligren.
Stay with us. Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986. Hey, welcome back. The Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, before we get to our guest, and he's our favorite Thursday guest, we have a really good, we don't do any pre-set, we just have a great conversation with Robert Lilligren.
Yep.
I wanted to, before we get with Robert, I wanted to get a quick 2-minute update from Lewis about what's going on with these orange shirts. Welcome, Lewis. You have to unmute yourself, bro.
Muted?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Go
Yeah, I just wanted to first stand in solidarity with all my First Nations Indigenous brothers and sisters on this quote-unquote Canada Day when we're finding our Indigenous relatives. And another thing, for those that want to support Orange Shirt Day, which is a movement started by Webstad, Phyllis Webstad is her name, and she's a survivor of boarding schools up in First Nations, and she started Orange Shirt Day. What we're seeing time and time again on social media and all over the internet is grifters, people that are non-Indian, literally printing up shirts with Indigenous slogans, Indigenous sayings, and selling them, and none of the proceeds are going to Indigenous causes. And it's important for us to make sure that our dollars are empowering Indigenous organizations and leading that change. So a part of that is kind of understanding and doing a little research into finding out, something that looks Indigenous, appears Indigenous, necessarily isn't supporting those causes. I highly support everyone go to orangeshirtday.org, which is Phyllis's actual, her own organization, and those proceeds go towards First Nations organizations and awareness of boarding school trauma and atrocities and support systems there. There's many people, especially when us are suffering, that tend to want to make a dollar off the American Indian causes. And this is, again, one of those things that we have to be careful of. And I encourage everyone to support and understand what Orange Shirt Day is, and, understand the atrocities and the mourning that the Indigenous community is doing in the entire Western Hemisphere right now, but also know where your dollar is going. So I just wanted to throw that out there, Robert.
Pinigigi, that's our Lewis Eagle Thunder, our second employee, Wendy, and also the Lakota TikTok guy.
The Lakota guy on TikTok.
Yes, thank you so much, Wendy. Hey, right now it's Thursday, so what does that mean? That means we're going to have Robert Lilligren. Robert Lilligren is the director of the Native American Community Development Institute, and he's just an all-around groovy dude, and he's like close to our age. So we have a rap session and talk about what's happening locally and nationally. So Robert Lilligren, thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, bonjour, you guys. Thanks for having me. Great to see you all. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, our pleasure. Really, really. We talk about our show, and we're so happy to have such great guests that come on and spend their hard-earned time with us to support us, but also tell what's going on all around Turtle Island. So thank you so much, Robert.
No, thanks. And congratulations on your inauguration this week. That is a huge deal. I feel like I'm not quite worthy to be here with you today. And I'm thrilled that you're still down here amongst the little people now that you're in exalted office.
Well, believe you me, I have a significant other, which is my wife, Wendy, here, and she keeps me in my place. So all things are good.
Very cool. I really respect that you're willing to step up for your tribe.
And thanks for the support and the insight too. And Robert, that's kind of a cool little segue. Just one thing I'd like to ask you before you get on with what you want to talk about in your report is that I appreciate your support, but I heard like a couple weeks ago we only had around 500 days until the next election.
Ugh, makes my stomach squirm when you say that.
It's close, but I know your group, NACDI, is what is it called? The C4 part of your organization?
It's actually not a C4, just to be really clear. And of course, for folks that don't know, that's a tax service, an IRS designation that allows nonprofits to do partisan political work. And we are a C3, and so this is nonpartisan work. But the project is called Make Voting a Tradition, or MBAT we call it. And it's probably in it's 8th year, and it's just growing every year. And it's a multi-generational approach where it's peer-to-peer, native person to native person, to increase not just voter turnout, but political engagement by the native community here.
Right. And when we, and this is just a kind of a side question, whose responsibility, and I feel like it's our responsibility to keep our politicians in check and keep the bridges going after we've endorsed them.
Right.
Goes both ways. And how do we do that? And how do we, because I know people come to Indian country and want our votes, and then sometimes they disappear, and sometimes they're lock, stock, and barrel with us.
Right. That's exactly it. Holding folks accountable once they're in office, right? And so one of the approaches of Make Voting a Tradition at Native American Community Development Institute is that kind of year-round engagement, right? We heard very early on, very clearly from the community, if you truly want to make voting a tradition, then you need to be here year-round. You can't just show up around elections. And we certainly have had a lot of experiences with politicians who do that. Show up, get the vote, and you don't really see them again. And so we work with our organizers and community to hold candidate forums, to engage people in the policy process. And I'll remind you, Robert, it's 500 days to our next even year federal election and state election, but it's only a couple of months till our next local election here in Minneapolis, and those matter. They matter hugely to our community. So we're kind of in full swing at Make Voting a Tradition, keeping people engaged and building relationships with candidates early in their careers, even before they're elected. That way we have a relationship with that elected official once they're in office. A good example is Sheriff Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good example. We haven't really asked him to be on the show because we know there's a lot of things going on and he's super busy. And there's also, frankly, a lot of controversial stuff. And I'd like to have him come on and speak his truth because, and he's offered too. We just haven't reached out again, but that's a really good point.
Yep, hold them accountable, right? And then this Make Voting a Tradition model, we now are going more statewide, building a statewide table this year and preparing for the 2022 elections. And then also during the last election, the 2020 elections, I think we've talked about this before, but Minnesota was part of what was called a 7-state strategy, 7 states across the country where the native vote was significant enough to actually swing an election, and several of them it actually did swing the election. And so we're part of a national network as well. And our colleagues on the national scene really appreciate the multi-generational approach that Make Voting a Tradition takes. It's often getting the younger people, even not of voting age, to help get the older people in the family to vote. And statistics show that if you can engage a voter, if someone votes when they're 18, they're much more likely to continue that pattern throughout their lives.
Well, I agree with that. And I think one of the things too is exciting is that we had over 13, we were 13 and counting Native Americans in the last election cycle in the state of Minnesota.
And lots of them won. Right? There are natives at the municipal level, county level, state level, and of course our lieutenant governor as well. So that makes us less invisible, makes us more visible, right? And more relevant, more contemporary. So it's important for everyone, not just for those people that are getting elected or the communities they represent.
Well, for me, I think it just makes me more exciting to go and vote than when you see somebody like Peggy Flanagan that's on there, and and all the, like you said, the smaller, and they're not smaller. I don't mean that, but the local elections that there's people up north in Bemidji and all that I never even knew until we did Rock the Vote Native Style, which we're going to probably try and rev up here soon too, and maybe we can get you involved in that too somehow, because we had some time on the radio for 6 months where we were just vetting politicians through the radio. So I know you have that big training in radio too.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Happy to help any way that I can. And then you got to vote for yourself, right, in your tribal elections.
Yeah,
isn't that a trip? Voting for yourself.
That is a trip. And, I didn't even have to think twice,
Right. You knew who the best candidate was.
Yeah. Now I'm at that point, and you've probably experienced this many, many more times than me, but I'm at that point is, hey, watch what you pray for. You might get it.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, it'll be the best job that you ever had. And it's hard, it's hard to do. But for the 12 years I was on the Minneapolis City Council, I loved every minute of it. Even when it sucked, I loved it. Even when I was getting attacked, I just really felt privileged. Well, I was privileged to be in that kind of a position.
Hey, do you have time for another segment?
Sure, happy to.
That's awesome. That's great. Hey, we're talking to Robert Lilligren, who's director of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. And we're just having our Thursday chat, and it's great to be here with him again. I know I've missed a day and Robert's missed a day, so it seems like a long time we've seen each other. Hey, we'll be right back. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, This affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
You've heard the screamers, you've heard the shouters. Well, now it's time to listen to a real conversation. Now it's time for the Rick Unger Show.
Weeknights from 8 to 10 p.m. on AM 950.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clear skies overnight with a low of 63, then sunshine on Friday with a high of 88. Eat Local Minnesota restaurants are perfect for your next outing, whether it's date night, family night, a business lunch, or a get-together with friends. See the full list of Eat Local Minnesota restaurants at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
I should have had Jane say, I listen to Native Roots Radio. Darn.
That's impressive, having Jane Fonda on there.
Yeah. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Wendy's having brain fart say she needs a few days off.
I didn't sleep. We'll be all right.
She's just worried about my running and.
Let me do that again. This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Wow, that was gravy. That was awesome.
That was a little better.
Hey, we have Robert Lilligren. Yeah, thanks, Lewis. We have Robert Lilligren here, and he's director of Native American Community Development Institute. And I want to say before we get going, I was just mentioning that we haven't seen you, or I haven't seen you in a few weeks.
Couple weeks.
Happy belated Pride. Wanted to say that out to you, and how you felt about it this year. I know it was shrunk down because of COVID, but I saw there was still a lot of stuff happening out there.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And yeah, I don't know if you were here when I was wearing my Two Spirit t-shirt. That might have been the last time I was on. I'm not sure that you were here, but a lot, there was things going on, which was good. Last Sunday, I went up to Minnesota Indian Men's Resource Center here, and they sponsored a Two Spirit Pride event, which was nice, kind of just getting that going again. And so it's very, very different. There wasn't the huge parade that draws 500,000 people to downtown Minneapolis, but there was stuff going on.
Yeah, we miss that. We table there, Wendy.
Yeah, every year we table it there, whether it's for HSUS or for AM 950.
Right. And it's fun to see we run into so many people that listen to us, and it's just a great vibe.
Yeah.
Great
Right.
vibe.
Well, and talking about now that you're in elected life, the perils of elected life, my good friend, Minneapolis City Council Vice President Andrea Jenkins had an incident last Sunday at a Take Back Pride event that was sort of a defund the police, get the police out of Pride march that marched through downtown to Loring Park here in Minneapolis. And then she got held hostage in her car for an hour and a half by some activists who were demanding she sign a list of their demands, and they won't let her go. It was bad and scary and not really the way an effective way of sort of protesting, I think.
Well, I saw the video and I thought, really, if that's the way you're going to go about it, it's not a good way. And we try it, as activists. I know Wendy's an activist. I'm an activist. Ogama and Lewis and yourself. That's not the way to go, and that's not our way. And so it was frightening.
Yeah. And you're right. It's not the way to go, right? And you think of our relatives who put themselves in harm's way and stand up to authority and perform civil disobedience in a peaceful way. You think of our relatives at Mount Rushmore last year, and so it's not about staying within the confines of the law, but it's staying within the confines of sort of decency and respect for other people. And if you're going to treat people who are fairly closely allied, right? Council
Right.
Vice President Andrea Jenkins and those activists. I mean, Andrea is a very distinctive figure. She's the first African American trans woman elected to any office in this country. So
Yep.
she's not just sort of from out there, but to treat her that way, and I think you're losing supporters as activists, as a movement, when you start treating elected officials with such disrespect.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't know where I read it, but they did have the link of the video, and it was basic kidnapping and blocking of the car.
She
Right.
was terrorized.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was terrorized.
Yeah.
Terrorized, traumatized. She's a good friend. So I've been helping her. We've been talking about, I support her campaign. I work on her campaign, and yeah, I mean, she has an opportunity here to kind of broaden a message of how to behave effectively in civil disobedience, and how to exercise leadership, and how to not do it. And I know she'll emerge stronger from this and really have even a broader platform to deliver her message.
Well, I know, and this is kind of off the subject, but I know Wendy and I talk about this a lot of time, and I'm an older person now, and maybe I would have acted that way when I was in my 20s, but now we know to build bridges. And then also people might not agree with one of your, like we're really having problems with the governor, but what did he do today, Wendy?
He signed, Governor Walz signed that there will not be a mandatory wolf hunt here in Minnesota. So, he's doing some really good things that we really like, and he's doing other things that we don't really agree, but,
Right. But that's
we
it.
need to work together
Right.
to work together, and we need to just,
Yeah.
work together. We need to
Right.
work together.
Right.
Take our victories, right,
Yeah.
Robert? Take our
Yep,
victories.
yep.
And work on
Take your victories, pick your battles, and you got to acknowledge, an elected person is never going to do everything you want them to do. But if you have the opportunity to be in dialogue with them, to hold them accountable, like we were talking about earlier, that's really what it's about.
Exactly. Hey, so maybe we can switch gears a little bit. What's happening with NACDI, and what's the future, and anything you've noticed nationally? Because nationally, things we could talk, have our own show nationally, but I
Sure.
want to give you the floor here in the next 6 minutes just to spew out some good truth.
Right. Well, this so far doesn't have much to do with NACDI or the work there, but I just think it's a big deal thing. And in some of the national tables that I sit at, we've discussed this, and other Native communities are really interested in it. But I think most folks know that we're in an era of constitutional reform for a lot of our tribes, sort of rejecting these imposed constitutions and writing our own. And for folks who don't know, here in Minnesota, 6 of our 7 Anishinaabe tribes operate under a common constitution called the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And the Minnesota Chippewa tribe has been in constitutional reform for quite a while now, and really indigenizing the process and really establishing Native values as the foundation, the fundamentals for the Constitution. And I think it was now 2 Saturdays ago, there was a constitutional convention meeting here in the Twin Cities in St. Paul at the hotel owned by the Mille Lacs Band in St. Paul. I think it was the first time ever a constitutional convention session was held in the cities and not on the reservations. And the delegates there did a big deal thing when they voted to eliminate blood quantum as a threshold for tribal enrollment, and rather establish descendancy as the foundation. And so that's now part of this new draft constitution. There's a lot of process left before it's approved, including a referendum with all the voting membership of all the Minnesota Chippewa tribes. But that was a big deal. That was a major push and some heavy lifting.
Yeah, I saw Alan Roy was real involved with that. I saw him post some stuff up on that. But yeah, I mean, we have to, if we're looking into the future, I know just a quick story. At one time, there was only 700 Ho-Chunks left.
Wow.
After 100,000 people were, died, whatever reason the colonizers brought stuff over. But so when you think of that, we think of my Gaga, my grandma, who really only dated white men because if she didn't, she might be dating a relative. And
Sure.
and that's a real deal thing. And so we've to protect ourselves, we've commingled with other races, but it's time now to realize that and then talk totally about descendants. So I support that 100% because that's a colonized way to think is blood quantum.
Very colonized, and eventually we would just sort of breed ourselves out of existence, right? And who would qualify in blood quantum? And other tribes of the Red Lake Nation took a measure to declare anyone on their existing rolls was 100%. And then that way their children would be 50% and their children would be 25 and still eligible for enrollment. So that was another approach. But I think the Minnesota Chippewa Tribes has done something significant. We'll see if it lasts through all the ratification. But that's an area I might get involved, in helping with the campaign to ratify the new Constitution.
And that's cracking the door, whether it happens this time around. But that's getting the conversation and looking. We're talking about it, and we have thousands and thousands of people all over Turtle Island listen to us. I mean, it's a real thing for us. I mean, my children aren't enrolled, and are
Right.
they less Indian than me? Or so those things we have to take all consideration of, because in my age limit and older, our people are going to pass on very soon, and what's going to happen is we're going to have people that are an eighth blood quantum that are going to be around, and they're not going to have any rights that we have.
Right. Yeah, I was at the convention for a little bit a couple Saturdays ago, and Sharon Day, who's just such a brilliant spiritual leader and very traditional person, and she gave this great speech about just taking the resources off the table. And we always get into this mentality of scarcity, and it's, if there's more members, there's going to be fewer resources to go around. And in reality, we have to acknowledge there's resources, and the more of us there are, the more we can do to work towards them. But her argument was, let's not talk about resources. This is about culture. This is about family. This is about tradition. And so it was really moving to hear her speak to the delegation.
That is moving, but I just want to bring up that if there are more people enrolled in your tribe, especially with this COVID money, you get more money. So everybody relax.
Right.
Not
Right.
for everyone, really. I mean, I guess we could have a whole show on that, right, Robert?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. So I just really wanted to mark that for your listeners, just because I thought it was a big deal thing.
Yeah, we got 30 seconds left here in this segment. Speak your truth. What else you want to talk about?
So just one quick thing, and we can talk about this in the future as well, but just yesterday we presented to the Minneapolis City Council on the recommendations of the Minneapolis Truth and Reconciliation Work Group. So it was Black descendants of slaves, Indigenous people, the stolen land, stolen labor descendants, who came together and recommended that the city establish a formal and permanent Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and the city council and committee voted to support that. So they will vote. Final vote, I think, is tomorrow.
Wow, that's huge news. That's super huge news. We got to leave right now, but I'm just going to say that's huge news, because we give money, billions of dollars all over the world to countries, and let's take care of our own here too that have gone through so much. Thank you so much, Robert.
Yep, we can talk more in the future.
Sounds great. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and that was Robert Lilligren. We'll be right back with the sacred animal section of our show. That was hard to say.
Snooper, stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Over the past year and more, we've all missed out on a lot. Family time, graduations, weddings. And missing those events, we've missed out on even more. Friendships, connections, community, belonging. That's a long time to miss things this important. So don't miss on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Vaccines are now available throughout Hennepin County to anyone over the age of 16. Just visit takecarehennepin.org and sign up to get yours. That's takecarehennepin.org.
COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free, and approved for everyone over the age of 12. Getting vaccinated is the most powerful tool to keep ourselves and loved ones healthy and to end this pandemic. Get your vaccine and get back to what matters most to you. To learn more about scheduling a free appointment, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. Again, that website to schedule your free COVID-19 vaccine is ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are the Elusive Nation.
Welcome back. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I would like to, I'm reading the wrong page. I would like to end with these thoughts, Wendy. But we're not ending yet. I remember that one time we were in the studio of AM 950 and we had a really rock'em sock'em show and we left. We got up and leaving and we still had a whole nother
the engineer
segment.
was like, where are you going? You haven't no whole nother segment. So we were like, what? Oh my gosh. And we had to get back in the studio and get situated.
So this show is dedicated to those who give back and fight back for our people and our beings. We are the resistance. We are awake. All things are our relatives, and what we do to everything we do to ourselves, all is one. Black Elk.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Ooh.
We love the wolf howl. So I'm going to be talking about wolves today, and I have actually a press release. I did mention it a little while ago, but this is for Howling for Wolves, one of our sponsors. Also, the Humane Society of the United States also posted this. But we have good news. A mandated wolf trophy hunt was not included in the Minnesota State Legislature's final Environment Finance Bill that was passed and signed into law this week by Governor Walz. So we're grateful that the state Senate's Republican majority bill has changed in conference committee, and the mandated wolf hunt and trapping season was removed.
Say that again about the Republican Senate. I want to hear that again.
We were grateful that the state Senate's Republican majority bill was changed in conference committee, and the mandated wolf hunt and trapping season was removed.
So that's what we talked about a little bit with Robert about building bridges and hoping people come to their senses.
Exactly. So it doesn't mean that you can't hunt wolves. It just means it's not going to be a mandated wolf hunt like the one in Wisconsin that happened in February.
When the first week they bagged the limit, they had to stop it
3
so
days.
quick. 3 days.
Yep. It was supposed to be a 2-week hunt. They stopped it in 2 days. Now, when you say that there's a mandated wolf hunt, you don't have to go around and look for people to hunt wolves. They just come out in droves. Like, people want to kill wolves. So anyway, I'm really, really happy about that.
And as you know, too,
really
just to remind our audience about
Yeah.
wolves, Wendy is at like Peggy Flanagan's in the Wolf Clan.
Yep.
A lot of our clans, native clans, are named after animals, and the wolf is a sacred animal.
Absolutely.
And you just watched Dancing with Wolves,
I
so
did.
you're like all jazzed up
I
about
did. I
wolves.
saw that
too.
movie years ago, and I hadn't watched it in many years. So we just watched it the other night. We were like, we have 3 hours to spare, so let's watch some Kevin Costner for 3 hours.
Us
But
Indians call it Dancing with Kevin Costner.
I really liked it though. But you know what? I didn't realize that his name, the name of the movie, Dancing with Wolves, was his name. Like I didn't remember that. But a couple of other things here. Today, Kitty Block and Sarah Admonson. Kitty Block is the president and CEO of the Humane Society of the United States, and she has a blog. It's called The Humane World. And she posted today that it's been 6 years since the death of Cecil. You remember Cecil the lion that was killed? A male lion who was a popular individual for wildlife viewing tourists visiting a specific national park in Zimbabwe. The heartbreaking details of the hunt that killed Cecil made international headlines. Cecil was lured out of a protected area with elephant carcass bait and shot by the hunter, who was a dentist here in Minnesota.
That was 6 years? That didn't seem that long
With
ago.
an
That was
arrow.
like 4 years ago.
With an arrow after suffering for 10 agonizing hours. Cecil was killed with gunshot. That was 6 years ago. And the article, I'm going to post it on our Facebook, really kind of says that, trophy hunting is still alive and well. And there has been some progress in stopping it in certain places. But it's still really, out there and people are doing it. So what we really need to do is just be aware of it, and talk about it, and make sure that when laws come up, we need to stop those. But those laws, and we need to remember animals like Cecil.
That's why it's so important that you have this voice here all over Turtle Island and talk about this.
I appreciate it. There's laws that we passed here in Minnesota with HSUS that we stop the commerce of animal trophy hunting parts of animals through Minnesota. So if more states do something like that, then it will deter.
One time the airlines, because it all got out with Trump's son and the guy that owns a pizza store, I don't want to say the name because I don't want to get sued, but they were all pictures on Facebook with killing lions that were probably in a cage and didn't know how to fend for themselves. If it's a true hunt, or if it's a true sport, that would mean the lions have a gun too and they can shoot back. So it's not a sport.
No, it's not. It's trophy hunting. That's all it is. But what I wanted to talk about again briefly here, since it's the 4th of July weekend again, and I talked about the other day with Lewis, we were talking about fireworks and how to keep your dogs and your pets and wildlife and people safe. So I know, I said this before that, years ago, Robert and I used to go to Stillwater every year. We thought that they had the best fireworks imaginable. And I really thought that they were very good. And we went every year and we watched the fireworks. But the last, I don't even know how many years now, but we've kind of boycotted the fireworks. We don't really attend fireworks. We've never shot off fireworks ourselves, but we hear it in the neighborhood at night, even before it gets dark.
That's gunfire. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it is. It's fireworks. And some dogs and some people and mostly wildlife are really affected by the sounds of this.
I know this is a sacred animal section, but really I just read more and more how our vets are affected by this.
Absolutely.
I mean, and can you imagine?
It's profound. Yes.
And there's places where they're now stopping fireworks, or they're going soundless in Europe. So I don't mind seeing the pretty stuff, but the booms that go through my body and shake, I can't even imagine our relatives, our sacred animals, how they feel.
Like, we know what it is that we're listening to. We understand what it is, and it still kind of shakes us, right? But imagine an animal that has no idea what the heck this sound is, how terrified the animal is. And, we talked about, animals leaving their babies and the babies being orphaned and getting sick. And the other thing we talked about was the environment, how the pollution and all the stuff that goes up has to come down. And it goes in the rivers and streams. Yes. And chemicals and toxic chemicals. The fish eat it, right? If it ends up in the water, and then they're poisoned. I didn't bring that up the last time. Animal control officers across the country report a 30% increase in lost pets each year between July 4th and 6th. And July 5th is one of the busiest days of the year for shelters because the animals are returned. So get your pets chipped. Well, it's probably too late for chip, but make sure their names are on their collars. They're secure. Keep them in a safe spot. Leave them in the house. Leave them inside. Even dogs that are kept outside in fenced yards make their way out because they're terrified. They'll jump. They'll crawl. They'll climb. They'll dig under. So we need to keep these animals safe. So have a safe 4th of July, and keep your animals safe. And let's watch and be careful and meaningful and mindful of our vets.
Hey, we're going to have the best of on Friday and Monday. Everyone have a safe colonized holiday. And I would like to thank Ogama for her news, Lewis for stopping in and giving us an update. Of course, Robert Lilligren, Wendy Pilot for this great segment. And I'd like to thank myself at this time. What do you think of that? Hey, if you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plentycoops, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, to divest, to join a group, or run for office. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. And if you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant